Hey everyone, this is Rachel. Thanks for clicking on my video. And I came in today to give you a little more gossip. Now, this first one up, we have been here before. This is Ed Hartwell and Keisha Knight Pulliam. So, I've been away for a few days and I haven't been keeping up on everything. But I read a story today that is like, I'm like, what the hell? So, the story that I read today is saying that Ed may possibly have another baby on the way. Now, not the baby that he has coming with Keisha Knight Pulliam. They're saying that this is another baby from a mysterious woman. Now, y'all know that Keisha got all on entertainment tonight, and she was saying that she didn't know that he wanted a divorce, and that, recently she's been saying he's been trying to kill her baby or cause her to have a miscarriage because of, the way that he's been treating her. And, his family came back and said it was a lie, that she was exaggerating, and we got to remember that she is an actress. Well, so, Ed, what's the story? Do you got another baby on the way? Could these rumors be true, y'all? Do y'all think it's true? I don't know. I don't know if this man has another baby on the way. But what I do know is that both of them are full of a little bit of drama. Now, we all have agreed that, these two probably should have never gotten married. Their little courtship was short. They both had other people, when they got together. They cheated with each other. So this was a train wreck from the beginning. But this story that I read today saying that this man may have another baby on the way made me kind of pause, because y'all know that when Ed got with Keisha, he was engaged to someone else. So is it a possibility that if this is true, that this other baby might be by the lady that he was gonna marry, where he called off that engagement to her? Could this be it? Or is it somebody else? Y'all, they little thing here between Keisha and Ed, this little thing here, this is like a damn soap opera. Every other day it's another story about them, and only time will tell if Ed has another baby. Now think about it, y'all. Keisha, he's already accused her that, this may not be his baby. He just ain't sure, because he was saying that she was trying to have a baby by any means necessary. Now there's this rumor out there that Ed may have, this other baby coming. So, Mr. Ed, you might be about something else here. You and Keisha, you trying to point the finger at her, but like a lot of my subscribers have been telling me, you may not be, worth the salt that you standing on either. So y'all, I can't wait to see how this shit all plays out, because like I said, every other day is something with these two. So I'm going to be looking for this one, y'all. Now, this next story up is about Tamar and Vince. And child, I know I'm a day late and a dollar short on this story. But if you watch my last video, you know I was having internet problems. So this is when I was able to get in to give it to y'all. So apparently, Vince and Tamar got into a little physical altercation there at the Ritz-Carlton in Buckhead. Child, they said that first of all, they was arguing, and then it escalated into, them throwing blows. Now, during this, some kind of way, Vince done bit the shit out of Tamar. Now, I know this shit ain't funny, but I'm just getting the visual on this, y'all. I got a sick sense of humor, but I'm sitting here picturing them going at it, and then some kind of way Tamar finger get up around Vince's face. He bite the shit out of her. So, I was sitting here trying to figure it out. Was she like putting her finger all in his face and he was like, bitch, and then he bit her? He was like, no, you ain't gonna be about to be waving your finger all in my face. Or were they like tussling and she had him like in the headlock and her finger came up, or like her hand came up and he said, damn, I can get her finger, and then bit her that way? Look, girl, when I heard this, y'all, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I told you I have a sick sense of humor, but I couldn't help it. I don't know why this is funny to me. I really don't. I do not condone this domestic violence of any kind, be it the woman whooping the man's ass or the man whooping the woman's ass. Now, y'all, in the last few months, these two have gone through a lot. You got Tamar losing her recording thing with Epic. You got her being fired from The Real. I think just a few weeks ago they were saying that Tamar cheated. Then now you got them over here fighting at the wrist. And then the sad part about it is they said this ain't the first time they had a fight. Now, today I was reading that they released the 911 call, and they're saying that it wasn't actually Tamar that called, that it was some guy that called. And he, asked Tamar if she needed a paramedic sent, and she said no, although they claimed that Vince bit her finger so bad that it was bleeding. So, I don't know what that's about. But child, they said all this stemmed from, Tamar deciding to go with other management. And I guess they got in an argument and then it escalated into a fight. Now, I'm trying to sit up here and, wonder how they're getting to this point. I don't know if Vince was in his feelings because maybe he felt like, just a few seasons back when the Braxtons first started, Tamar was on there begging him to give her a chance. And he kept telling her, I am, but now it's not the right time. Now it's not the right time. And eventually, she probably wore him down and he went on and gave her that chance. So maybe now Vince is like, wait a minute, bitch. No, you ain't about to leave me now when the stuff is getting bad, and you don't got nothing on the horizon, because we heard that stuff was going on with Steve Harvey, but we didn't hear that anything is in production. Now, on Tamar's part, you got to look at it from her point of view. She has had all these losses this year. And then normally, just say if she was with an agent, just that wasn't her husband, and she didn't feel like they were representing her to the fullest that she felt that she could do, then she would switch logically to new management. So on Tamar's part, I can understand her wanting to switch, professionally, but this is her husband, so it makes it a little, it's a little dicey there when it's family members or your spouse. And that's why they say don't work with family members or spouses. Well, y'all, they said that when all this happened, Vince ain't even stick around for the police. That motherfucker got in his car and he was like, I'm out. I done chumped on this bitch's finger. They done called the goddamn police on me. I ain't about to stick around and wait for the damn police to come here and arrest me or beat my fat ass. He was out. Now, again, I don't mean to make light of this, but child, these two are, just having a bad year. Now, I don't know, and I call it like when you have had a string of good luck and then all of a sudden you just go through this period where everything that you look at is going wrong. I just call it the clouds are over you now. You're having a rainy day. Life is filled with hills and valleys. Sometimes you're on the hill and sometimes you're in the valley. And anybody that's lived like 30, 40, well, I'm saying like 40, 50 years, 60 years, you have ups and downs. Everything is not always going to be peachy king, and I think that's what's going on with them. They just having a bad run. I think maybe both of them need to step back, take a deep breath, stop biting each other and fighting each other, and come together and sit down, and just talk out where do we go from now. But I think what the problem is, y'all, I think what the problem is there are some egos involved in here. So there's ego on Vince's part because he is a producer, big time producer. Then you got Tamar now has her big ego, so they're clashing. And that's what it is. That's all it is, y'all. But the motherfucker done bit the shit out of her. He wouldn't be biting me. Nah, I'm sorry, y'all. I think that's a bit much when you're chomping on bitches' fingers. Now, like I said, I don't know why, y'all, I'm sick. I don't know why I think this is funny. And what is it that I think is funny? I don't even know. Is it the fact that he bit her? Is the fact that they were actually out with their crazy asses fighting in public at the damn Ritz-Carlton, ghetto asses. Y'all know I just called them ghetto. These people ain't ghetto. They can buy and sell me, but they all out at the Ritz-Carlton showing they natural asses. Vince and Tamar. And then, let me tell y'all this. Do you know the very next day, these two schizophrenic people were at the airport holding hands and smiling and saying everything is fine with our relationship, with our marriage couldn't have been stronger. Now that's some crazy shit right there. Now they didn't go that far, but when they were stopped at the airport and asked how are things going, they said we're fine, our marriage is fine, and they smiled and walked on like nothing happened. Like this bitch wasn't sitting up there walking through the airport with a mauled finger, with her finger all chomped on. Child, I guess. So I'm going to be paying attention to Vince and Tamar because it seems like every other month they got a little bit of drama. This is another one that I'm going to have to keep tabs on. And I keep on doing videos on the same people over and over again because these same people keep popping up doing something else crazy, child. Whatever. Up is Nate Parker. Now this story I was a little reluctant to do. And I thought about it, and then I shied away from it, and then eventually I decided to go ahead and do a video on it. Now, the reasons why I wasn't going to do a video is for personal reasons, and as I do this video, it's going to help me decide whether I will be able to tell why I didn't want to do it. So first off, we had all heard about Nate Parker's movie, Birth of a Nation, and we're all excited to see the movie. Now, in the meantime, here recently, the story has come back up about a rape allegation that he had when he was a student at Penn State. The story is a fellow student accused him and his roommate of raping her. Now, this actually went to trial, and Nate was acquitted because he and this girl had had a prior sexual encounter. The roommate was actually charged, but later the charges were thrown out, and he was able to go on with his life. Now, what I do when I'm doing stories like this is I try to read everything that I can about it so I can clearly understand what is going on. So I started there, and then there was a transcript of the trial. And the transcript is, excuse me, of the third man that was there when all of this was supposed to have occurred. And I read everything that he said when he was in the courtroom. And then I read everything that happened to the girl after, she accused them. She did report the rape, the alleged rape, I should say, the alleged rape right away. She did continue on at school. The story is saying that, while she was there, Nate and his roommate, after she reported the rape, um, I'm going to say the alleged rape. After she reported the alleged rape, they harassed her while she was on campus. The report is saying that they followed her around campus, taunting her about what had happened, threatening her, and also they told fellow students what occurred. Okay, back then in 99 when this happened, the girl tried to commit suicide twice. Okay, they go to court, and the third guy who was in the room, in the apartment when all of this occurred, he gives his testimony. And what I will say is this. After reading this guy's testimony, Nate got off on a technicality. And I will just leave it at that. Because if this had occurred in today's world, he would be in jail. And also something curious about this, after reading all of this stuff that I read, because one story leads you to another story, to another story, to this court document, to that affidavit, to this, it just leads you all over. So after reading all of this, I am going to go out on a limb and say that this girl who was raped was black. And the reason why I say that is because if Nate and his roommate did all of this to a white girl, they would be in jail. After reading what I read that they did to her, and how this rape was supposed to have gone down, this alleged rape, if this had been a white girl, they would not have walked out that courtroom. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that she was black. Now, in the things that I read, it doesn't give the race. And when her brother did an interview, he didn't give his last name and any identifying information that lets you know one way or the other whether they were black. Now, from what her brother says, this girl from that moment on changed. He said that she went to college as a happy-go-lucky, normal 19, 20, 21-year-old or 18 or 18-year-old. And after this incident, her entire being changed. And she suffered from depression, which led to her starting to use, I guess, drugs. And then eventually, after trying 3 more times to commit suicide, the third time, which is actually the 5th, because she tried it right after everything happened back in 99. But here in 2012, she was successful. And what they said is at the time she was in a drug rehab center and she was able to get her hands on a bottle of pills, and from what I'm understanding, she swallowed the entire bottle. So that is that. Now let's get to what's going on today. A lot of people are saying, why are they bringing this up now? They're only doing this to block the success of his movie in October. Now, it is true. They are bringing it up, and it happened 17 years ago. But what I will say to those people is there is a guy by the name of Roman Polanski and, others, Woody Allen, and other people who have committed crimes years ago that are still being brought up today. Now, I am too young, and I'm 51, to even have any idea of who a Roman Polanski is and what he did. But I do know that when anything comes up, I hear this story about he had to leave the country to get away from some things that he did. I think he was supposed to have slept with a 13-year-old girl, and he fled to Europe to avoid being prosecuted. Now, from what my mother tells me, I think that happened back in the 60s or 70s. So I would have been a little kid, but they still bring it up today. We all know the story of Woody Allen and Soon Yi. You know, Mia Farrow had an adopted daughter. Woody Allen was having relations with her, and he left Mia Farrow for her adopted daughter, who was a minor, eventually married her, and I think they have kids. But every time Woody Allen does a movie, anytime he has anything coming out, they bring up what he did. So for those people who say, well, this happened 17 years ago, this is going to follow Nate Parker for the rest of his life. I'm going to say that again. When you have something this serious, because this was not, a little girl accusing some guys of doing something and it didn't happen. The rape actually happened. It happened. Okay? And what I'm going to say is if you read everything, you will understand that the reason he got off is because he had sex with her prior to that. Okay? I guess back in 1999, no didn't quite mean no like it does today. So, he got off, but the rape did happen. So, once all of this stuff came out, again, it reared its head about these accusations, this trial that happened 17 years ago. People are saying, again, why are they bringing it up? They're doing it to ensure that his movie is not going to be prosperous. And also, after this was brought up, there was a backlash on Twitter, and this backlash has been going on for a few weeks now. And Nate Parker finally kind of, is speaking up on, this whole issue. And basically what he's saying is he's said that he's disappointed in Black America, that we are not supporting him. Now, what I'll say is this: we don't owe him anything. He hopes that we will see his movie. There was never a guarantee that the movie would be a box office smash. The only guarantee is if we as consumers go out to see his movie. So again, we didn't owe him anything as the African American community. Now, if you have people who, after reading what he and his roommate did to that young woman, because again, it wasn't just a rape, it was a systematic, basically, attack on her after she, went to the police about what happened to her. And if people feel that they just can't ride with it, even though they were all gung-ho about seeing the movie, but after they read, what he was accused of and what he went to trial for, and they feel that they can't roll with him, that is their right. That is their right. Now, there are some of us who can separate art from the person. I am one of them. Now, while I do not agree and do not support him in what he did to that girl, because it was really bad. And if I have a college age daughter now, and if this happened to her, I would be devastated for her, and I know she would be devastated. And I was once a college student. And here's where I say this gets personal. And this is why I debated on doing this. Now, before I tell my personal story, I will tell you first off, plain and clear, that I am going to see the movie. I will support his art. Let me say it again. Rachel is going to see the movie. Now, I may not go to the movie and pay $12 or $14 for it. I am patient enough to wait until it's either on cable, pay-per-view, or something like that. I don't need to go pay, and I don't need to rush and see it. I'm not that kind of person. But my personal story. So after reading how this all went down with Nate Parker, I told a friend of mine here on YouTube that something similar to this happened to me when I was in college. Everything that led up to what happened to this young woman kind of sort of happened to me. And I will give a brief overview, and then I will tell you how my situation differs from her. I met a guy that went to the same school that I did. As a matter of fact, I didn't actually meet him. I went to a party. He saw me there. My roommate worked. He was on the football team, and my roommate worked in the place where the football players go to turn in their uniforms after practice or a game. And he had told her that he saw her roommate and that he liked me, and to tell me that he would like to go on a date with me. So, being a little 18, 19-year-old girl, I remembered he was kind of cute, and I was like, oh, he's a football player. So we dated for about a month. And then, football players, they don't normally live in the dorms. They have their own apartments on campus. We had an area that was for the athletes, and they don't actually live in the dorms. So one day I go over his apartment again. We had been dating about maybe a month and a half, maybe 2 months, and I go over to his apartment. And we are laughing, we're watching movies, and this is, the first time that we're gonna actually be intimate. And I go in his room, that happens, and afterwards we're just laying and talking and laughing, and as I'm there, I start to doze a little bit. And he says, I'll be right back. I'm going to go get something to drink. Now, when we were in his room, it's obvious that he has a roommate, but the way that their apartment was set up is he was on one totally end of the apartment, and the roommate was on the other. What separated them was a living room, a long hallway, and a bathroom, and the roommate was on the other side. Now, when we went there, there was no one there. It was just me and him. When we went in his room, he shut the door. So after being over there probably to 12, 1 o'clock, like I said, everything went down. We were in his room, and I was dozing. He said, I'll be right back. I'm going to get something to drink. Now, this is what I remember. I remember dozing off a little bit, and the person that went out the room had on white boxer trunks. But the person that came back in the room had on a different color. So immediately I sat up and I said, what the hell is going on? So it stopped the person in mid tracks. So that meant that the door to the room was open partially. So the light that was coming from the hallway clearly illuminated the person that was standing in the doorway. And I realized that it wasn't the person that I came there to meet. to be with the person that I had been dating for almost 2 months. That was not the person that came back in the room. So I started screaming. I did not, you know, be quiet at all. I screamed to the top of my lungs, and it scared them. And the football player that I was dating ran back in the room and was telling me to be quiet. And the more he told me to be quiet, the more I screamed. And as I was screaming, I was grabbing my clothes. I didn't even bother to get dressed. I screamed and I walked towards them. And as I walked towards them, I screamed louder. I banged on walls as I was walking to them. And they parted and moved out of my way. And then when they moved, I ran to the door and I unlocked the door screaming, and I ran down the hall screaming. Now, I was able to get away only because I screamed. But I'm not going to hold myself up as any kind of better person than this young woman, because the difference between her and me is I didn't report anything because I didn't feel like, you know, anything happened. Because that person never got a chance to lay a finger on me, I just felt that it wasn't my right to, go and get them in trouble. I never spoke to that football player ever again. I told my roommate, and I told um, someone back at home were in my hometown. And I didn't tell my mother until I was actually it's been in the last 10 years, and so that was when I was in my 40s. Now, what I will say is anyone who's ever gone to college know that these games exist. They know this. And if any of you who are sitting out there listening to my voice, you have stories like this. You know of someone that this happened to at, in college, exactly how it happened to this girl. When you read the story, I'm just going to tell you what part just burns me that Nate Parker did. Nate Parker was in the room engaged in the sexual activity with the girl. He had two other males in the room, and when they heard what was going on, or what they thought was going on, they kind of walked to the door, and when they realized that they were having sex, they were going to walk away, and he motioned them to come in. And that's what started this entire thing that happened to this girl. And also, there was something else that surprised me when I was in college. And I'm not going to say surprised, I'm going to say shocked. Um, the football players at the college that I went to had this little game where at the end of and I know this video is going to go long, but I just had to tell this part. Where was I? Okay. Well, the football players that went to the college that I did, at the end of the year, they had this little thing, excuse me, that they would do. And it would be this list that they would put out at the end of the year. And pretty much what it was a list that lists all the girls that they had slept with, and and they would rank them. And they would post it in places that, school administrators and maybe faculty would not see it, but other students knew where to find it. Now, this is all before the internet and cell phones and all of this. And in this ranking, they would rank how they looked, how they did certain sexual activities, and all of that. And the list was called the Scully list. And I'm not going to say the name of the college that I went to, but if any of you out here and you know of that list that I'm talking about, You know that, what I should say, if any of you out there are listening to my voice and you went to the college that I did back 100,000 years ago, and you know the word Scully list, and you know that this is a list that the football players put out, you know I'm not lying. So I only brought all of that up to say this. For all of you who are saying you don't know why they're bringing this up now, they're going to bring this up for the rest of his life. Be it right or wrong, they're going to bring it up. We know about Woody Allen, we know about Roman Polanski, and we know about any other big time actor, producer, entertainer, everything. You guys who are in your late 20s, maybe early 30s, how do you know about R. Kelly's history of, messing around with young girls? R. Kelly messed around with Aaliyah several years ago. Some of you were teenagers or probably even in elementary school, but they still talk about it. I mean, come on now. What he did was no minor offense. And after reading it, it was definitely not a minor offense, because the outcome for this young woman is she's dead. She's dead. And for those of us who are going to use my words and say, how do we know that she killed herself because of, it directly related to what he did, because it happened in 1999 and she killed herself in 2012, blah, blah, blah. Talk to any rape survivor. Talk to incest survivors. Some women can go through it, get help, and go on and live productive lives. Some women, it happens to them and it destroys them. I don't know what would have happened to me if what those football players were planning to do had occurred. It had gone through. I am 4'11". Back then, I probably weighed barely 100 pounds. They were football players. And I was not a tramp. I was dating a boy for 2 months. I went back to his apartment. It was just me and him. He invited me over to watch a movie. What the hell? So I'm going to end this video with that, because I have gone quite a bit longer than what I intended. And this video went from me laughing and joking to a serious subject, and that's why I wanted to save this one for last. I just want to say again, to all of you who say that it happened 17 years ago, R. Kelly was messing around with Aaliyah, and Aaliyah was 14, 15 years old. That happened several years ago. Woody Allen, several years ago. Roman Polanski, about 40 years ago. So get over it. They're going to be talking about it until the day he dies. Be it right or wrong, he will always be known as Nate Parker, the guy who was accused of rape when he went to Penn State. Thank you for watching the video. Bye-bye.